Hey, I'm going to talk you through how to analyze political cartoons, and we'll do that by looking at some modern political cartoons, and then looking at some cartoons from the age of imperialism in the United States. So, when you're looking at cartoons, these are some of the things that you'd want to be looking for to help you understand them. And as I go through these, I'm actually going to show you how you can see them in modern political cartoons. So labels, symbols, metaphors, visual distortions, irony, stereotypes, caricatures. Let's look at these without talking about them first. Let's look at them in a relatively current political cartoon. So this is a cartoon about President Biden. And how do some of these things show up? So first of all, the way his head is exaggerated, large, that would be a caricature. And cartoonists use caricature to help you identify someone quickly. So anytime you see a political cartoon with President Biden, he's probably going to have a big forehead, kind of a long head, and kind of a goofy smile. And that's just the way to easily recognize President Biden in political cartoons. Also, this political cartoon has labels. So the sucker says gas tax holiday, and his coat says Dr. Joe. And that just helps us understand a little bit what is going on. And specifically, now we know this cartoon has something to do with the gas tax holiday. Some symbols in this. Symbol is just used to help you recognize something else. So a symbol is just something that represents something else. And generally, a stethoscope represents a doctor. So in this case, because of that symbol, and a lab coat is also symbolic, we recognize pretty quickly that in this case, Biden is supposed to be a doctor. So then we have metaphors. And in this case, we talked about caricature. In this case, the sucker is a metaphor. And if you think about it, and you may not have had this experience with your doctor, but maybe with a parent where they will inflict some kind of pain on you. In the case of a dentist, it would be like drilling into your teeth. And if you're good, then they will give you something that definitely does not get rid of that pain, but it's supposed to make you feel good. And so this sucker is a metaphor for something that is insignificant and won't really make you feel good. It's not going to take away the pain, but it makes the doctor feel good. It makes the doctor or the parent feel like, oh, we've done something to help you with your pain. I've done my job as a parent, or I've done my job as a doctor. So once you've analyzed this, really what you're trying to get at is, what is the cartoonist trying to say? And so in this case, the cartoonist is trying to say that the gas tax holiday is not helpful. And it isn't going to do anything for the pain that people are feeling. And so if you were to ask yourself, does this cartoonist support President Biden, or specifically, does this cartoonist support the gas tax holiday? Probably not. So this would be like an anti-gas tax holiday cartoon, maybe an anti-Biden cartoon. Okay, so let's look at another example. So here's a political cartoon with Trump, President Trump, former President Trump. So first, labels. So we see the dog's collar is labeled with Pence, and also you can see the date up there is January 2021. That would be a label. And the words that Trump is saying, anything that's text is really a label. Symbols. So this piece of paper, it's not just any old piece of paper. It has "We the People" on it. And anytime you see "We the People," even though it's a word, that word is actually, that set of words is symbolic. So in the United States, when we hear the phrase "we the people," we think of the Constitution. And when we think of the Constitution, we think of democracy. So "we the people" is a symbol for democracy. So this right here is like is a symbol of democracy. What else is in here? We have a caricature. So remember, caricature is an exaggerated thing that helps you recognize someone. And anytime you see a cartoon with Trump, you're going to see a long red tie, usually. You're also going to see like his face is orange and his hair might be, the coloring might be exaggerated and the style might be exaggerated. But in this case, the tie really stands out as a significant caricature. And then finally, metaphor. So again, if we think back to the definition of metaphor, it's what an artist does to make you associate one thing with something else, two things that are seemingly different, and then you associate them together to come up with basically a new idea. So in this case, the artist is using a metaphor to associate Mike Pence with an obedient dog. And that kind of forms the core of this cartoon, is Trump telling Mike Pence, telling the dog, to urinate on democracy. So if you were to ask yourself, what message is this artist trying to convey? He's trying to convey that Trump doesn't respect democracy, and maybe that he tries to get people around him to also disrespect or to tear down democracy. Does this cartoonist support Trump? No. Clearly, this cartoonist doesn't support Trump, and specifically the events in January. This cartoonist sees that as something that Trump orchestrated or commanded. Okay, so now let's look at some older cartoons, and these cartoons will actually be in the packet that you have in this module. So this is a cartoon. Let's analyze it. So labels. There's one label, White Man's Burden, and notice there's a question mark there. And White Man's Burden should sound familiar to you. We read that poem last term. It's a poem by Rudyard Kipling. This cartoon also has some symbols. So you see Uncle Sam there. Uncle Sam, anytime you see Uncle Sam, he is a symbol for the United States. So he symbolizes the United States. You're probably not familiar with this guy, but if you were from England or Britain, you'd recognize him, and he's just a symbol for Britain. And then this guy back here, his hat, his dress, he's dressed kind of like a German commander. And so this is a symbol for Germany. And then stereotypes. Stereotypes are just generally used by a cartoonist to help people recognize a group of people. So in this case, this is a man from India. He's wearing this head piece, and not everyone in India wears these headpieces. It's a stereotype. But when we see that, we automatically can associate, okay, this guy is from India. And that's why cartoonists use them, just to help you quickly, so the cartoonist doesn't have to put a label here that says, this guy is from India. This guy is from, and of course, yeah. So, and then metaphors, and in this case, irony as well. So, this cartoonist has created a metaphor. He's associating, like, these guys on the bottom are kind of, they look like pack animals, like mules or maybe camels. So this is like just a metaphor for like a beast of burden, kind of doing mindless work for someone else, heavy physical work for someone else. And then the irony in this is, if you take the label, White Man's Burden, and then if you look at what's going on, you don't actually see the white men burden. You see the men from the colonies. So in this case, India. I'm guessing this would be like the Philippines. I'm not sure what colony Germany would have back there, but So the cartoonist is trying to use irony to make you think about the situation, where he's using the phrase "the white man's burden," but he's showing that in reality, the burden is really placed on the people of the colonies, or on the colonies. So what's the artist trying to convey? He's trying to convey that imperialism, or the U.S. And European colonization does not help the people that are being colonized. That it in fact is a burden for them. That it's not good for them. And so, does he support imperialism? No. Clearly, this cartoonist doesn't support imperialism. And so we'll look at one more. This one has a lot of labels. I won't go through all of them, but each of the countries is labeled. Each figure represents a country. And then we have the same countries represented down here. So Philippines, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Cuba, and Panama. And some of the other labels, what the United States has fought for before the United States intervened in behalf of these oppressed people. So this was before. After the United States rescued them from their oppression. So this is after. So it's a before and after political cartoon. You can see a bunch of other labels. So these metaphors, or these rocks, and looks like a stone as well. These yolks are all labeled with oppressive things. And so these are metaphors. All of these really are metaphors, including down here. And these are just metaphors for the oppression of the people. So whether it's under their previous colonizers, Spain, or whether it's based on the work that they're forced to do, industrial slavery. It's just these are metaphors for making you associate the lives of these people with the just heavy, brutal labor. And then down here, the opposite. So we're associating these people with civilization. So the way they dress is really a metaphor for, and their bags of money, cigars, glasses, smiles, ties. So it's just a metaphor for civilization, success, wealth, accumulation, happiness. We see some stereotypes. So it's a stereotype that people from these countries would be like this, and this is now we don't necessarily. Well, I don't know. We can't say what's in your mind, but back then, when people would think of Hawaiians or Filipinos or Puerto Ricans, they would see it as a country full of people who are just doing labor like this. And when they think of the United States, they think of Wall Street or wealth. So these are stereotypes for what it's like to be in an industrialized country and in a less developed country. It's not reality. In reality, there were educated, successful people in Hawaii and in the Philippines. And in reality, there were people doing manual labor, people working in mines and stuff like that in the United States. And in these countries after they were taken over. So after they were taken over by the United States, really nothing changed for the people. But so these are stereotypes. They just help you recognize really quickly that, kind of uncivilized lifestyle, civilized lifestyle. And we associate that with the way people dress and the work that they do. And so does this cartoonist, what's the message that he's trying to get across? It's pretty clear that the U.S. Colonization of these places, the U.S. taking over these places was a positive thing for them. And so does he support imperialism? Yeah, definitely. This cartoonist definitely supports imperialism. So now you should be able to analyze other cartoons to identify what is the cartoonist trying to tell you, and does the cartoonist support imperialism, or does the cartoonist not support imperialism?